I'm Jimmy Ward and welcome to my review for Clive Barker's Nightbreed, the director's cut. I finally got a chance to watch this film. I haven't even seen the theatrical cut, I haven't seen any trailers, I haven't seen any I don't know, any spoilers to the film. The only thing I knew going and watching this film is a couple of picture artworks and the fact that it's been a cult classic film for such a long time, from the guy that's behind the Hellraiser films and Candyman and Midnight Meat Train, some fantastic kind of horror genre projects and fantastic imagination in terms of creatures, in terms of psychological aspects, and I knew I had to watch it. It was on those films on my list. Watch the best possible version, the director's cut, the superior version that was never released in cinemas, the 2-hour cut, and I'm really happy that I did watch it. The film stars Craig Sheffer, who did Hellraiser 5 Inferno. I knew I recognised him from somewhere, and it was one of the better of the Hellraiser shitty sequels, I guess. He was okay in it. Also stars David Cronenberg, that's right folks, the director David Cronenberg, the guy that did behind The Fly and the Video Drone, and the most recent film from 2014, Maps to the Stars, which is not a nice film to watch. But yes, David Cronenberg as a mass serial killer from the collector's lineup probably. I mean, that's just like genius, absolute genius, and he plays it so brilliantly well. Of course, it wouldn't be a Clive Barker film without Doug Bradley, of course. The guy has played Pinhead for the past like 7 or 8 movies practically, and he's just a really gifted actor, British actor as well. He plays the role so well in those movies, and it's great to see him here do a different role, different take. The story from the film follows our main character Boomer, who is drawn to this magical place called Midian, who basically is a community of kind of like Nightbreed monster creatures that have been hide away from society for basically hundreds and hundreds of years. And through a series of circumstances, he ends up going there, and basically all breaks loose in a sense. The film is really hugely imaginative, and it kind of connects to some of the most recent films, like the X-Men movies, for instance. The idea of judging someone by their appearance, or and I like the idea that it's just so Clive Barker in the sense of like the creature designs are all very specific and individual. It's got a history, it's got mythology to it. I like how it touched upon that a lot more, and how sun kills some creatures, guns kill another, knives do, fire kills other creatures. Each one has the kind of weaknesses. Basically, a Nightbreeder is basically a society, a kind of another species practically amongst us humans. Practically is a place that if you die, there is a place after death, and you can live there even after death, and you can live forever practically, pretty much. But you won't be indestructible. You would have weaknesses, there will be some vulnerability to you. They were kind of like cast out and rid of and kind of hunted down and killed for generations of killers in a sense. I thought that was very interesting ideas, and I love the fact of our main character, for the good portion hour of this director's cut movie, he's having these kind of like magical dream sequences. He's been being manipulated, and a series of events led him to the actual place itself. But I just love the characters and the character development between him and his girlfriend's character. I thought it's very interesting. I thought that the time they took to spend each other, we're in the apartments and they go into the nightclub, things like that. It's just little things that add to the character development and made me care about him before the craziness starts to happen. And I was surprised to read and actually look up that some of these extra material, this character development material, is not in the actual theatrical version, which is a bit disappointing, to be honest, because how can you get behind a character if you don't know his flaws, if you don't know his personality, and you don't know if he cares enough about this woman or not. And I think the relationship between those two characters is one of the strongest points of the film, definitely. And it kept me going for a good portion of the hour, because the first hour is practically character development, is practically setting up this world, and you got David Cronenberg as this kind of mass serial killer, which is a great design, like a business suit and this kind of like weird, creepy, teddy bear kind of look with a zipper there, and it's just like the design of the mask is great. And I think David Cronenberg plays this character called Decker, this kind of psychiatrist, very well, and I think he's definitely a very interesting character, and we definitely find a lot more about him throughout the series of the movie goes about, and the way he kills people. It's very collector-ish style kind of thing. I think he knocks it out of the park, definitely, for sure, and just playing you know, a madman practically. And the fact it's the director, David Cronenberg, I think is absolutely hilarious. So I think he did a really, really good job personally, as David Cronenberg did, and I think he just really went for it in terms of the entire movie, and he definitely was quite daring in terms of his kills for sure. And we found out a couple of specific dialogue sequences, who he is and why is he doing this. And I love some of the comedy lines definitely for sure when he's, you know, reacting to certain things. I think it's very, very interesting for sure. Our main character and the relationships definitely lead to the actual society, or of course Midian. And once he gets to Midian's, the actual place, and a series of events happen. And so a couple of surprising twists and turns I didn't see coming, being the fact I didn't see any trailers or spoilers or anything, I didn't know much about the film. I was generally surprised how the film came about, and some of the extra scenes that weren't actually in the film or in the director's cut only. I was quite shocked, because I can see why the film was so hard to market during the time of the 90s, you know, because it's not really a horror film, it's not really a adventure movie, I suppose. It's a bit of a mixed bag of different things, and I really did enjoy it in terms of how creative it was and how much practical effects, and you know, some of the CGI effects are still a bit dodgy, but you know, it's acceptable for what it is, of course. But the fact that a lot of these sets were hand built, and you know, the look of it was very specific, and it's all based upon the actual book that Clive Barker did, which is really fantastic. So he definitely wrote and directed an on-screen version from his own book himself. I just think the material that's there is what he wants. And the film is clearly not going to be for everybody. As I was watching the film, I was thinking that some people I can see just like really not enjoying this at all, or think it's a bit too cartoonish, a bit too silly. In some places it is definitely for sure. And when you've got the typical kind of redneck kind of cop that's going guns blazing, you've got this kind of elaborate kind of, you know, gun setup sequence with one of these kind of like sergeants getting on with like shotguns and missiles and like mines and explosives. I'm thinking, fucking hell. Chill last half of it is more action-packed, it's more guns blazing, and there's just a lot of craziness going on in the last half of the movie. So creative in terms of what it's trying to do. Now, of course, I'm not blind to some of the flaws in this movie. There is obvious flaws in terms of some of the dodgy kind of special effects, and you know, a couple of bad lines here and there, or some bad editing in places that you can tell. Even the director's cut, it's still a little bit dodgy in terms of the way they've cut it and the way it goes from one scene to the next to the next. It's like, okay, just what's happening practically. Some of the pacing issues is in there, of course, but you know, I can let it all pass, I can let it all slide. You know, at the end of the day, it is a very entertaining movie. It's a movie which has basically been shot down by studios from their very first time release. It was a financial flop, and to get a cult following, you know, even after all this time, 20 years later, finally getting a director's cut, people that were hardcore fans of the first film, seeing it at the cinemas or seeing it on VHS or DVD or whatever, and me just coming into it now, watching it from the first time experience, I can understand the appeal to this movie, and I personally really did enjoy it, perfectly honest. I was generally surprised about some of the major differences after looking up at the movie, especially the actual ending is completely different from the actual ending from the theatrical. That was a heavily shock to me, because I thought the ending in the director's cut, without spoilers, was very refreshing and quite interesting in terms of a kind of a love story, and in terms of actually having a good ending, which actually characters that actually been building up from the start of the movie to the end of this. The actual theatrical endings from look of on movie censorship and a few other pages, I was quite surprised that was one of the endings. I can see how that kind of worked, but I can also see how people were disappointed by it or a bit let down by the ending, I guess. Overall, Nightbreed is a cult classic film for a reason. It's highly imaginative. It's got some really creepy-ass kind of collection lineup of monsters. It's got some really interesting you know, ideas in it for sure, in terms of history, in terms of mythology, in terms you know, that Clive Barker basically puts into his work, and you can definitely tell that he's passionate about this movie for sure, and he really wanted to make it just a great, fun movie to watch for, you know, for whatever audience out there that wants to enjoy it practically. And I thought that, you know, the characters of all did a great job in terms of playing individual ones, you know, from the cartoonish, you know, serial killer to the redneck, you know, cop, to the love story characters. They did a really great job, perfectly honest. The costume design's great, the set design's great. Just, you know, everything I thought was really interesting. I really did enjoy my experience watching Nightbreed, the director's cut. That's been my thoughts and opinions, guys. I hope you enjoyed watching this review. What do you think of the movie? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Lots of new opinions on the theatrical, lots of new opinions on the director's cut, which is better. Is it worth watching the theatrical for me personally? I don't know. So in the meantime, this is Andrew from Media Wolf on Game TV. Second.